Hey Jews, in this video I want to try to explain the reality and our world, our current events, some of the things that we're seeing, especially some of the things that are coming out and are a little bit confusing for people, with the perspective of the Torah. So the Torah is the truth. The Torah is objective truth in our reality, explaining reality to us. And in fact, the Torah tells us that this world is the world of lies. Olam hazeh, this world with its 5 dimensions, with 3 physical, 1 spiritual, and 1 time dimensions, that it's the world of lies. And it's temporary, by the way, okay? So it has an end date. We're at 5,784. It's very important, I think, to pay attention to that time because we're only going to 6,000. 6,000 is the end date, and that's given in the Pshat, in the very simple first level of the Torah. Okay, the Torah is also 4-dimensional, and it has deep meaning, deep secrets. It's coded, it's encoded, and that's why our smartest people throughout history have studied the Torah and written many, many books on it, explain the Torah to us. Okay, so we come to this time in our timeline, 2024, and unfortunately many of us Jews have gotten away from learning the Torah and practicing Judaism. Okay, practicing what's in the Torah in order to have an emotional receptivity to understanding this information and to having access to the deeper layers, to the deeper meanings of the Torah. And in fact, a lot of Jews in this date, and because of certain things that happened in our history, do not learn the secrets of the Torah. They don't learn the Zohar. They don't learn, and that's the one thing that we need all to know at the end of time. That's actually what's in the Zohar. It says if you learn the Zohar, if we all learned the Zohar, we would be redeemed. Why? Because the Zohar is revealed truth. It's the secret of reality revealed to us. Just like in the world of lies, right now, everything's coming out. Their lies are coming out. The New World Order, before, their agendas were hidden. They were building this in the background of reality, but now they're no longer hidden. And so therefore, the truth should also no longer be hidden. Okay, so there's a problem though within there's more than one problem, but there is a problem within Judaism with people not wanting to learn the Zohar, not wanting to learn Kabbalah, really. And I don't mean fake cults that learns Jewish spirituality, mysticism, whatever. It's not pure, it's not true. And I can back that up, but that's not what I'm here to do right now. I want to just explain on a simple level that there's basically 2 realities happening, and we are commanded actually to learn Torah and to separate and to focus more on this. Okay, more focus on the spiritual element of dimension of our reality, minimize the physical, and at least incorporate them in certain ways that are given for us as a guideline in the Torah of how to live in this reality, so it's peaceful and good for us. It's harmoniously integrated with the physical, the spiritual, and time, and everything's explained. Because again, this world, the Torah says, is a world of lies, and it's not being dramatic. Okay, so King Solomon tells us that throughout our history, basically, that the nation of Israel has endured because we have toiled in what is above the sun, the spiritual. We've survived this long, when in every generation they rise up to annihilate us because we have held on to the Torah. So it's like water for us, okay? And so we can lead a Jew to water, we can't make him drink. But please, I'm saying, be open to learning more about Judaism, being open to at least start practicing a little bit more of the things that you may think are ritualistic or dogmatic about Torah, but I'm going to explain how it's just consciousness practices. If there is halacha, which is a Jewish law, that tells us put on the left shoe first or the right shoe first, tie up the left shoe first, doing all these things, it's not for no reason. It's to always keep you aware. Do not go into habit. Do not just get used to habit, eating breakfast on the go, whatever. You're not even thinking about what you're eating because you're not blessing your food. But if you are consciously living in this reality with certain practices, okay, with certain consciousness practices, like knowing what you're eating, how much you're eating, what you're blessing, and there's also spiritual reasons for that. But let's just say on the one hand, we're just trying to be mindful. We're just trying to stay awake and not fall down into habit. Because once we fall down into habit, okay, then we're susceptible to other things, okay? We're going to call it sorcery, and I did a video on this, Forgetfulness is Sorcery, something like that. And soul traps, also 2 recent videos that I did, because I'm thinking along these lines right now. Why? Because it's a very big thing in the Torah to remember. We have to always keep remembering this, that, and the next thing. There's 10 things we remember every day. There's certain times of the year, certain times we remember certain things, and we're told also never to forget certain things. Okay, because once we start forgetting, and once we start not being aware, once we start living without consciousness, without the sense of presence, okay, without mindfulness, basically, we can be programmed into the matrix in this world of lies. We may get distracted. We may get distracted by current events. We may get distracted and caught up in all sorts of things that aren't even true. It is just a distraction. Now, I'm going to say some things that may sound radical, okay? But if you investigate them, they're not radical at all. It all seems to make sense, okay? Bear with me, okay? Because in the Torah, we have our entire story, the entire story of the Jews. From the beginning, with Avraham Avinu, in 1948, from creation, he was born, Avraham. And this is the start of our story, Avraham, the story of the Jews, okay? And we're told throughout the whole Torah what happened, what's our history. So what happened there, and then when we got the Torah, and then Purim, and then the first temple, then Purim, the second temple, and then the big exile that we're still in today, okay? And we're also told of the end times, that there will be a redemption. Okay, so we know our whole story, and in essence, we're living it right now. We are now the characters in the story, okay? So it's how is this gonna, what's our contribution basically to this story? What's our contribution to this unbroken chain of information, this unbroken lineage that we know from the Torah, that we read also, let's say, at least every Pesach. Most Jews at least do Pesach, right? Or at least know about Pesach. We're in this story. We're the last generation. We're the Dolan Aharon. We're not going, like I said, we're not going to this end date. There's things that have to happen before that, okay? So what I want to say is that a lot of the things that we may think of if we're not practicing Torah Jews is that a lot of the things may seem ritualistic, like lighting candles and washing your hands and blessing your food and all these things, but they're really just to help you keep conscious, stay awake, stay focused. Know that there is a world of lies. Know that there's a bunch of people who are conspiring against the 99%, and we see that now. So in order not to fall into these traps, okay, that King David talks about, that in Tehillim, in Psalms, is to stay conscious, stay focused also. Understand that there's a spiritual element here to our reality. And know that at the end of time, this reality is going to end. It's going to end. The physical is going to end. The time is going to end. But the spiritual is going to endure. And that is also why the nation of Israel has endured over time, because we toil in what is spiritual. So simultaneously, there's 2 basic realities going on. There's the matrix reality, where they, okay, where they lay out for you, basically, the current events, the things that are happening, the things that are distracting you, taking up all your time, worrying you, chaotic, it's fearful, it's unknown, there's wars, we don't know what's going on, okay? But a lot of this is just directed situations, directed events that are happening in order to distract you, in order to control you, in order to keep you distracted from real reality, okay? But there's another reality going on at the same time, and that's this reality. It's like you come into this reality with your physical body, your soul, and a certain amount of time, okay? So the physical dimension of this of your personal reality is your body, which is physical, your soul, which is spiritual, and the amount of time you have in your life. Okay, and you have work to do. Okay, that's the whole point of you being here. Okay, you have work to do, and that work is outlined for you in the Torah. Because basically, says the Ramchal in Mesilat Yesharim, you are here to perfect yourself. How are you going to do that? By being conscious, by consciously practicing this information that was handed down to us in an unbroken chain from father to son throughout the history. Okay, this is information we can count on. This is information that we can trust. What's happening here in the Matrix world of lies is not so trustworthy. I mean, if you just go back and look at history and just go back and look at everything and understand that the timeline here doesn't make sense. Nothing makes sense here. Technology also, by the way, doesn't make sense here. Technology increases exponentially over time. A lot, if you look at Nikola Tesla's inventions and patents and everything that he did in the 1920s, I mean, where should we be now, technologically speaking? All of the great inventions and stuff that were taken by governments and classified as top secret, national security, all that stuff, they have a lot more technology than 99% of us do, okay? So there's a lot of information on that. There's a lot of channels and a lot of researchers who speak about that, about higher technology that exists, that we're not privy to that information, and that's just a fact. Okay, but there's a lot of things that we may not have understood previously, like how much the information is controlled. So a lot more people are aware of Project Mockingbird. Okay, and all the things that the CIA, the Mossad, M16, all those M15, all those things that they control the information, what you learn in school. You can see that now better than at any time before in history, how the education system programs you into the matrix. Okay, so you can see now that there is a directed agenda for LGBTQ, and therefore all your public schools are teaching that. All of them are indoctrinating people into that ideology. Okay, and what I'm going to say next is going to be maybe difficult to hear, but it's no different in Israel, guys. Okay, the state of Israel, as I say in a lot of my other classes, the state of Israel is one of the 19 centers for the Fourth Industrial Revolution. You can look that up on the website, okay, for the New World Order. So when we look at events that happen in our world, okay, the world of lies, we have to have in mind these agendas that are now no longer hidden. We're told what Agenda 2030 is. We're told that the goal of that is the New World Order. Okay, so everything that happens in our reality is a part of that agenda. Okay, so when you look at things that happen, how that moves us towards their goal or away from it. Okay, so the state of Israel is one of the 19 centers of the Fourth Industrial Revolution for the New World Order. We have to look at every event that happens here also through that, with that information, with that knowledge. Okay, so what I didn't know, what I learned recently, was that in the Army, the IDF, there is an education unit or whatever, okay? So it's like the Jews, the nation of Israel, okay? So the state of Israel, and this is something I talk about a lot in my other classes. I'm not going to go into it right now, but there's Erev Rav. You have to understand also who makes up the population, okay? There's Jews, there's non-Jews, there's people that come from different backgrounds, from different lineages, right? And the Jews were commanded to keep separate, and also were commanded to marry Jews, just to be separate from the other 70 nations. who come from other places, come from other people. We come from Avraham Avinu, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, the 12 tribes, okay? And this lineage was given the Torah, given this information, okay, which was passed down, like I said, in an unbroken chain over time. And this is a reason, says King Solomon, that that they have not been successful in annihilating us over the generations, because we always held on to the Torah, which was the truth, which allowed us to see reality clearly. We were always led by Torah scholars, by the smartest people who knew reality the best, because they knew the Torah the best. And because of that, they were able to make decisions based on what was happening here in order to save us. And most of that is repentance. Don't go too far away from the Torah. Don't go too far away from God, or things are going to happen. We're not going to be protected. They're going to try and annihilate us. But if we repent, we will get saved. We will get redeemed, like just what happened in Purim, around the middle part of our story. And so we know the whole story. We are part of this story right now in the end times, okay? So the state of Israel is Erev Rav. Erev Rav, okay, because we see that in the land of Israel, we don't have Torah laws, okay? And Erev Rav is part of the New World Order, okay? So we know that in the IDF, there's an education, a re-education unit or whatever. Part of their agenda there, right, is to re-educate Jews, okay, into this reality, this scary reality with constant war, constant survival situation, constant terrorist activity, constant infiltration, constant scarcity, constant insecurity, especially about housing in the state of Israel. Okay, constant, secular versus Haredi, bad feelings. Okay, but most of the things that happen, like I said, in this world are fake. Okay, so meaning they're directed for a specific reason, to move everyone towards a specific goal, and then there are real life consequences to that. So for example, if I now want to pay 50 people to protest against whatever, right? And then they whip up a fury and get a bunch of other people who are not part of that. Okay, that's again in another, I think it was State of the Union, something like uncomfortable truths and necessary. Something like that. I did a previous video where I talked about an Ames, I think it's Ames experiment, okay? Well, what they did was take a bunch of people, unsuspecting people, and they do experiments like to see, like, psychologically, what are you going to do if a bunch of people around you say something or do something, okay? And you, because you're uninformed, you just join in, like you don't really even know why you're doing it, but or you have a sense of this like virtue signaling that you also want to be a good person, and these people, or seem to be doing the right thing or whatever, and without even investigating, without thinking, without being conscious, okay, without making informed decisions, you just join in, okay? Like, for example, in this experiment, they took a bunch of people and everybody in the room would stand up when a bell was rang, okay? And then they brought in somebody who didn't know what was going on, and they sat him down there next to all the people that did know what was going on, and the bell rang, everyone stood up, so he stood up too. Then everyone sat down. The next time the bell stood, everyone stood up, he stood up too. And little by little, they took away the people that knew what was going on, okay? Part of the psyop, I guess, or whatever, okay? And more and more the other people that came in who just joined in ended up being the only ones in the room. And still, whenever the bell went off, everybody stood up, and nobody knew at that point why they were doing it, okay? So at a certain point, when they want to create social change, there's ways to do that, okay? And there's things like false flags, for example. And I'm not saying these don't have real consequences. They do, because unsuspecting people just join in, okay? There is a directionality. There are people who are moving the world towards an agenda. They tell us what that agenda is, okay? And so, for example, false flags, a lot of people are aware of that, okay? And for that, they have crisis actors. So this is something, if you don't know about it, you can go look it up. There's a lot of crisis actors, okay? And some of these people come back to many different crises that happen. Like, I think there was one in the Sandy Hook, I think is an example, where some people there like are interviewed on TV, and then suddenly they're in Vegas for the mass shooting, or they're the guy in Vegas is the head of the police department there is now the head of the Maui. Like, there's actors in our life, just like on social media, okay? A lot of the things you see, a lot of them it's not just organic people, random people like you and me. They're actors. Okay, they are part of this controlled matrix, okay, that are creating basically a false reality, the matrix reality, where you think that something's happening and you get involved, okay, but it may or may not be real. And in a lot of times, most of the time, it's not real. Most people don't want to fight with one another. No, most people don't want to go to war. Most people don't want to take over the world, okay? But there is 1% of people who do. And now we see it, okay? So a lot of these things are just fake, okay? So crisis actors, for example, okay? And this is where I'm going to tie this in, okay? So the hostage situation in Israel after October 7th, okay? And let's talk a little bit about that. October 7th, where was the army for 8 hours? No response. Israel, one of the 19 centers for the West's new fourth industrial revolution, part of the New World Order, part of the New World Order. Where was the army on October 7th? Why did October 7th happen? What about these hostages? Why now? Okay, if you remember Gilad Shalit, he was a hostage that was taken several years ago. When he came home, I don't remember him doing the things that some of these hostages are doing. And I'm just saying what I see, okay? This is just my opinion based on looking into reality, learning the Torah, knowing what I think I know. Not just my opinion, by the way. But if you look, there's a page where all actors have their biography pages or whatever. I think it's called DB or something like that. Okay, it's like the actors have that page, and it's like information on them. One of the hostages, Noa Argamani, who finally got rescued. Okay, the idea of rescued Noa Argamani after 200 and some odd days, whatever. Now she's just on making videos thanking the IDF and saying all these things, whatever, and it really looks scripted. It looks like she's reading from a prompter, okay? And again, I know a lot of people might get upset with me saying this, but I mean, this is the truth. There are crisis actors. She does have a page, the IMDb page or whatever, for acting, okay? She could be a crisis actor. That is within the realm of possibility, okay? Because all of these things are meant to direct us in a certain way. And in this case, it's war. I mean, you can see from the beginning also that the state of Israel, one of the 19 centers of the fourth industrial revolution, part of the New World Order, seems to want the war in the north. I mean, so these things sometimes when we see in reality and we react to them and we have an emotional reaction to them and we get involved and we get invested and we're part of it now, okay? Sometimes it's basically wasting your life, okay? So if you're a climate activist, I mean, could be a waste of your life, because we see what's happening. We see the people who are trying to lock you down to 15-minute city. And again, if you think a 15-minute city is convenient and good, and you want to own nothing, you think you'll be happy, then this page is not for you. This whole my whole channel is just not for you. It's not going to be a good thing. Okay, it is going to be modern slavery. This migrant issue, there's the moving of populations. If you think that's a great thing, that diversity done illegally like it's being done, flooding your country, is a good thing. It's moving populations for an agenda. Okay, then I'm not your gal. Okay, because I'm looking at reality. I'm trying to integrate with what I'm learning in the Torah, which is objective truth, and I'm trying to live this reality, which is basically peaceful. It's not challenging. But it is more peaceful. I know, Baruch Hashem, thank God, I know that there's a God. I know that this Torah is the truth. I know that this information is trustworthy. My lineage, my grandfather and great-grandfather and great-grandfather and great-grandfather's grandfather are trustworthy people. The Jews are smart people. They have toiled in the Torah. The smartest people have learned Torah. The Geonim, the geniuses, have known and learned Torah. And so, regardless of what the religion seems to look like from the outside looking in, which is pretty unattractive, I myself agree. Even it's not without issues, okay? But that doesn't mean that the Torah is not true. That doesn't mean that what you can learn about reality from the Torah perspective is not true. It is the very source of life. It is the thing, the one thing that the Jews have held on to over time, which has saved them. Okay? And for that reason, also, to not get sucked into the traps, to not forget where we came from, to not forget this information, to not forget to keep Shabbat, which gives us a spiritual receptivity to even learning this information, but keeping us more pure. And I have other videos on that, like I said, especially soul traps and forgetfulness is sorcery. Okay, but even you don't have to think of it as sorcery. I mean, there is also, we know here that they dabble in the occult. Okay, we know that they dabble in the cult. Even the Nazis, they were very interested in occult information. The Freemasons are very interested in spiritual information. Okay, because it's true. It's part of our reality. But the fact is that over time, our spiritual reality, our spiritual awareness has declined, and we become more and more materialistic. Okay, and the more materialistic you are, the more you are not receptive, the more numb you are to this information and to God. And then that could lead you down the road, the crooked road, to chaos, fear, to the feeling of not knowing and not being secure, unknown, and to war. Okay? And however, if you are hooked into the Torah, which is like the well of water, the source of life, okay? Etz HaChaim, the tree of life, that was passed down in an unbroken chain from our very lineage, our fathers, our grandfathers, and so on, which is a consciousness practice to always be aware that there is a God. We do the things that we do to keep mindful, to be aware, to even such things like even saying like Tehillim, even to say the Psalms. Like I when I started, I've said this in many different videos, but I used to practice yoga as a spiritual practice, okay? So a part of that was being aware, part of that was being mindful, part of that was trying to be conscious, which meant also minimizing everything in the matrix, minimizing TV, minimizing music, minimizing all of that stuff. And to some extent, secluding, meditating, doing mantras in my mind. Do you have an internal chatter in your mind that's just constantly keeping you anxious? You can quiet that voice in your mind, but you can do it with the Torah. So Psalms, so for example, Tehillim, I memorized several, and so I just say them in my mind. You cannot have two conversations in your mind at the same time. So you can, if you find that you're spiraling out of control in your inner dialogue, what's going to be, what's happening, what about the war, what about this, what about what's happening, blah, 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 you can quiet your mind by doing Psalms, and now by saying Psalms, Tehillim. And what that does also is it puts you in a spiritual resonance, vibrationally, okay, with God. And you will therefore be more receptive to this information. And if you just do some of the things like netilat yadayim, like blessing your food, all that stuff that you may think as being outdated dogma practices, they are for a reason. They are to make you conscious. And we were told over and over, remember, remember, remember. Don't forget, never forget certain things, because we don't want to be trapped in the world of lies, to have our consciousness trapped in the matrix, to not really be able to see reality clearly, to not know anything about the spiritual reality, to not know that we're at the end of times, and therefore everything that's happening, there's a reason for it, and that we are going to be redeemed. But redemption depends on tshuva, on repentance. So everything that happens is basically happening, but at the same time, it's happening to wake you up to this reality, this reality. Look at, be living your reality this way in peace. Okay, so just minimizing outside influences and realizing that a lot of the things that happen in what you think is reality is fake. It's just fake. Okay, and you can go and look at things like, well, you know what? Honestly, a lot of this stuff is just kind of a waste of time at this point. I mean, you should be at least aware of the fact that there are psychological operations, there are false flags, there is an agenda, there are conspiracies, there are groups of people who conspire. There's groups of people who have common interests. They get together and work towards their common interests that even could be against the interest of the majority. Okay, you can see that now, hopefully. They have mind control. I mean, the CIA, there's a lot of declassified documents on that you could learn if you want to. Okay, and they do have sorcery. They have occult information. They are interested in the spiritual information. They're interested in confusing you and trapping you into other ideologies, other spiritual practices, other whatever, and not learning Torah. And like I said, in the IDF, they have education group or whatever, and part of it is really just to take you away from the Torah. And why do you think that right now they want to draft all the Torah observant Jews? They want to draft the Haredim. You think that that's coincidence? This law that protected the Torah yeshiva boys from going into the army, it's just coincidentally run out in the middle of this war. Just coincidentally ran out the timeline on that law protecting them. Okay, so you can see maybe sometimes things are planned in order to coincide with certain other things, in order to create chaos, in order to achieve agenda, goals, in order to work towards the New World Order, in order to maintain your status as one of the 19 centers for the New World Order. Okay, so lots of questions, but the main point is not to get sucked in and depressed and become a useful idiot. And I'm another class called Are You a Useful Idiot or something like that? With all due respect, I mean, look, it's really about information. It's really about where you get your information. It's really who do you trust for that information? And who better to trust than your own lineage?